All right, so tonight we're going to review chapter 119, part 4. We're going to do 3 letters of the Aleph Bet. As you know, chapter 119 is divided into the Aleph Bet. So you have 8 Pesukim, 8 verses per letter. So we're going to do letters Yud, then Kaf, then Lamed. It should take us about 7 weeks to complete. So this is the 4th week. I think it's a good idea now to give a brief introduction as to what Tehilim accomplishes. Even though we've spoken a lot about the importance of this book, it's not really well understood. If people really understood the value, what it does to us, they wouldn't let go of it. But on condition that they understand what they're saying. It's very important to read it, but obviously the better we understand what we're reading, the more it will be effective. Let's begin with the following. When we say Tehilim, when we pray, what are we actually doing? We're communicating with Hashem. How? Through our speech. And the power of speech is something that is special to the human being. As in the beginning of creation, when Hashem creates man, He endowed him with a spirit, a living spirit. And if you look at the translation, the Aramaic translation of what's so special about the living spirit, besides the fact that he was given the ability to exercise free will through his soul. But the living spirit is not just the soul, it is the ability to speak. Leruach mimalela, the translation says, he was given the ability to speak. That is the way he communicates. Apparently, if he's given that ability, he needs it for something. It has a purpose. So we all know that we need to communicate. It's not just sign language. Hopefully, if we have the ability of speech and we understand or speak the language, then we can communicate with other people. We can communicate in writing too. There's different ways of communicating, but speech is very special. Speech is special because through it we can also communicate with Hashem. So sometimes people forget that, yes, it's important to speak, so we can communicate with other human beings, but they forget that this is a powerful medium through which we communicate with Hashem. Even though the ultimate goal is to do ma'asim, to observe His mitzvot, His commandments, to actually perform deeds. These are what really matter. Nonetheless, the Kabbalah teaches that the human being is composed of 3 facets, I guess we can call them. The thought, the speech, and actions. Machshava, dibur, and maaseh. So everything originates in the machshava, in our minds. That's where the seed is planted. And it's important, because once the seed is planted, there's a chance that it will grow. You don't just jump into a maaseh, into a deed, into an action. Hopefully, you think about it. Hopefully you evaluate it, you analyze what you're going to do. Hopefully you understand what it's all about. So where does speech come in? We have machshava that can help us with our ma'asim, but what about the speech? Speech is something in between the 2. So the Kabbalah teaches the importance of the 3 as how do they relate to the different parts of the human body. When I say the human body, I don't mean just the physical, but I mean we have a neshama, but we also have a ruach and we have a nefesh. Different parts of the human being. We see the physical body, we don't see the neshama. Even though subconsciously we can experience our neshama. What is the neshama telling us to do? So that subconscious mind needs to express itself somehow in the physical body. The way it does is through the dibur. So dibur is like an agent, a metavech, a medium of sorts between the machshava, which is really part of the neshama, and the maaseh, and the deed. So sometimes, of course, they're not working together. There's no cooperation between the maaseh and the machshava. Unfortunately, not everyone has integrity, where they actually carry out what is best, according to the machshava, according to the neshama, according to what subconsciously they're being told to do. Then there are those that don't even know or not paying attention, completely ignore what the neshama says. Why? Because they have become slaves of the physical body, of the nefesh. So they're not even aware that there's something different. I'm talking about people who are aware, people who know the emet, who know the truth, have no problem with it, but sometimes even they do not act accordingly. It's out of sync, the machshava with the maaseh. So therefore, what do we see so far? That the dibur can sometimes make a difference. If it does its job in communicating properly, or taking it another step from the machshava to the maaseh. So the dibur, the speech, is very, very important. It is important the following way, as far as we're concerned today, because we can talk about it for forever. But for what we're going to do now, it's important to realize that the machshava by itself doesn't accomplish too much. It's necessary. What does the dibur do that it helps the machshava, the thought? Ze me'orer, it awakens. We want to be awakened. Sometimes we're not as excited or happy as we should be. So we need something to stimulate us. So of course you may say music stimulates. Yes, music is definitely something that can stimulate. It can uplift your moods. It can bring down your mood depending if it's sad music. It touches on the emotional level. It's not logic. Music is not about logic. It touches a different level of the human psyche. The human being is complex. There are many, many things that go on in the human body. And there are different buttons that can be pressed that will activate different parts of him. So here we want to activate his neshama in a very, very strong way in the physical world. And that is through the dibur. The dibur will activate it. It will bring out what it hopefully it needs to be brought out. And that is kavanah. Kavanah means intent, focus. So when we read the words, whether it's prayer or Tehilim, we actually mean what we say. Wow, to mean what you say, that's special. Because a lot of people just talk. Do they really mean what they say? Well, you have to understand what you're saying. But assuming you understand, a lot of people understand the Hebrew somewhat, but they don't really mean it. Or even if they mean it, they don't take the time to fully digest what they're saying, because if they would, this would really move them. A lot of these words are very moving and stirring, if you really paid attention. Even the prayer of the Siddur that we have, if you pay attention to the words, how one is so thankful to Hashem for everything, if you really paid attention to the words, you would cry, at least from time to time, because that's what it can do. That is the power of speech. So when you quietly say the words, it won't be as effective. But when you bring it out and you understand it, it has tremendous power. Now, why did I tell you all of this now? I want to remind you that there is a false conception in certain religions, especially in Catholicism, that you need blood in order to achieve atonement. They say you need blood, and because you don't have sacrifices today, that's it. You have to believe in someone who gave his body to atone for all of humanity's sins. Does that sound familiar to you? Yeah. Well, obviously the Torah, all over the place, very much contradicts this idea. You don't need blood. Yes, part of the service of sacrifices involved blood. For whatever reason, yes, but that wasn't the main idea of the sacrifice, that blood was needed. That wasn't the main idea. The sacrifice was symbolic. The human being commits sometimes an animal act because he didn't think, he didn't use his machshava properly. So when you don't use the thoughts properly, you don't analyze the situation, you don't evaluate whether this is worth it or not, you can make a mistake. Or if you're uninformed, you didn't learn, easily make a mistake. So you bring an animal, it's a form of penalty, and it's a reminder, don't behave like an animal. You're not an animal, you're created in the image of God. You're endowed with free will. You have the power of speech. You have so much more than an animal, so don't forget it next time. That's what the sacrifice more or less is all about. Obviously the Kabbalah teaches more about what the sacrifice is. But what happens today that we don't have a temple, we have no sacrifice? So the prophet says clearly, Uneshalema parim sefatenu. There are many, many verses that make it very, very clear. You don't need the bulls. How will we pay for our atonement? with our lips. Uneshalema parim, instead of bowls, sefatenu. But be careful, sefatenu doesn't mean lip service, which is what a lot of people do. It really means that you communicate to Hashem sincerely, with all your heart. Like you're talking to your best friend. Not just saying words. That's what it means. Even though it means lips, it doesn't just mean lips. It means to actually communicate with all your heart. So this is actually something that we do every day in our prayer. We communicate, we say words, but we want to make sure that we say it with all our heart. Tehilim helps us get there. Because if you read through the entire book and you understand what he's saying, it will awaken you. Ultimately, it's a composition that David HaMelech shares with us, not only about his own life experiences, but this is something for us, for future generation. Otherwise, what is he telling us? Here, this is my biography? No. This is a powerful book. And it's so powerful that our tradition is very clear that prayer, lips, power of speech, has the power to change one's mazal. So even though we believe that mazal is very, very strong and a lot of things are pretty much almost set in stone, one's destiny, but because of that special relationship we have with God, that Banim atem Hashem Elokeichem, we are His children. But what's so special about being His children? Well, if you plead with me, I'll change your mazal if necessary. A lot of people who did not have kids according to their mazal, because they prayed, they got a blessing, their mazal changed. And all of a sudden, after 20 years of being childless, not through surgery, all of a sudden they had a child. What is this? Yes, we believe in blessings, we believe in prayer. If it's powerful, it can go all the way to the throne, to the Kisei HaKavod of Hashem. And if the prayer is unanswered now, it may be answered 10 years from now. Somehow, at some point, it may be answered. How did this come about, this change of mazal? Through the dibur, the speech. So that's what I wanted to bring out. That when we learn Tehilim, what are we doing now? Of course, we're trying to understand what he's saying. But the ultimate goal is to use this. To use this as a way to communicate to Hashem, on one condition, of course, that we believe in it. We believe that this is actually helpful, and that our emunah, our faith in Him, is intact. If people's faith is not intact, if they're committing all kinds of wrongs during the day, then they shouldn't expect that their prayers will ever be heard. As the Kabbalah explains, there are angels out there who are in charge of receiving the prayers, who just basically throw it away. This guy doesn't really want to connect or relate. He just wants to pray because he thinks he can ask what he wants. You can't just ask what you want if you don't deserve it. If you deserve it, you're a good man, a righteous individual, then there's a chance that if you use that prayer properly, it will get through. So that is why this is very important. Tehilim is very important, not only as a prayer, but as we will soon see, to reassure us. What we're going to be learning tonight are all kinds of reassurances that the David HaMelech gives us and gave himself in his personal situation. Reassurances, because that's what we all need from time to time when we don't feel good about our situation. Things appear to be very bleak. People are not doing well either health-wise, livelihood, or all kinds of enemies, lawsuits. What should they think of? They can become easily depressed, and people who have no emunah sometimes commit suicide. We'll talk a little bit about that. How the emunah, the faith, can help people become strong. So that is what he does here, in reminding us, in reassuring us that if you're connected to him, you have no reason to worry. And that in itself is reassuring. Prove it to me. Well, it says, my whole life I can share with you and prove it to you. I went through this. So he wants us to learn from him how if we are in any situation that he was, and he brings all kinds of examples, don't worry, you can get out of it too. That's why I think people are not benefiting enough from this book, even though they know it exists. They simply don't realize the importance of it. It's a very important book, and I highly encourage people to learn it and to say it on a daily basis. Okay, so we're holding verse Yud today. Yadecha asuni vayechonenuni, verse Ayin Gimel 73. Havineni v'meda mitzvotecha. Your hands have made me and prepared me, grant me understanding, that I may learn your commandments. What is he describing exactly? His hands were made by Hashem. Obviously, he's talking about how special the human being is. How if you look at him, you see that he's not an animal. That's how he's saying. That the fact that Hashem made me the way I am, with my hands, my fingers, everything about me, including, of course, the power of speech and all that, means that my purpose in life, my mission is different than the animal. I'm not here just to exist, to eat, to hunt. We have a different kind of mission. In order, therefore, for me to understand what that special mission is, I need you to teach me. Teach me your mitzvot. Hashem should teach him? Yes, because sometimes we make an effort to understand something and we don't fully understand it. David HaMelech is asking for additional assistance, that he should appreciate the meaning behind the mitzvah, because that will help him in life. It's not enough that we just do a mitzvah, which is important, but that we understand. So when he asks to be taught the meaning behind the mitzvah. If you look at the human body, you will also see how it's divided into limbs and sinews, and the rabbis tell us, you want to see the connection between the human body and the mitzvot. There's 248 positive commandments and 365 negative commandments, right? Look at that. How they correspond to the limbs and to the sinews. So that you should remember that this is part of your mission, to observe Hashem's commandments. If you want to take it one step further, you also have the Kabbalah that tells us that through this human body we can tell all kinds of things into the future. There's a whole chokhmah, a whole knowledge base of, you can tell what's going to happen with you if you see all of a sudden your ear moving by itself. It's called chokhmat rifruf evarim. All of a sudden the knee hurts you. All of a sudden there's something wrong in one of your fingers. Not that you were injured. This means something. We can tell from the human body all kinds of certain things that will happen. If people knew about it. Obviously not everybody knows about this. Also, how do you call this? The eyelid, right?
Twitch.
The what?
The eyelid twitch.
Yeah, the twitch of the eyelid. Mm-hmm. All right, next verse. Yere'echa yir'uni v'yismachu ki lidvarcha yechalti. Verse 74. Those who fear you will see me and rejoice, because I hoped in your word. He's talking about Yere'echa, not just anybody, those who fear you. When they see him, that Baruch Hashem, he succeeded not to defile himself. Even though he was going through all kinds of pressures, people can fall and fail. He did not defile himself, I say. He did not in any way go against the word of Hashem, even though he was in all kinds of situations that were very difficult. So, who will love to see me after the fact, after I have survived against all the odds? Yere'echa, those that fear you. When they see that I succeeded, they will be reassured as well. Not only that their path is correct, that what they're doing is right, but in realizing that even though sometimes it appears that Hashem is not there to help us, look, he helped him. Look, he survived. Look, despite the fact that he went through so much trouble, he still persisted. And he observed the commandments and didn't give up, and he was able to be just fine. So these people, more than anybody else, they are Yere'echa, they fear you, they will be encouraged by it when they see that I did not give in, I did not fall. Alright, the next verse, Ayin Hey, Yadati Adonai ki tzedek mishpatecha ve'emunah initani. Ayin Hey, 75. I know, Hashem, that your judgments are just, righteously have you afflicted me. With time, he came to realize this too. In the very beginning, even David HaMelech did not understand what was going on. But with time, he came to see that all of it is for some good. That the Darchei Hashem, the ways of Hashem, are tzedek, are righteous. So when he came to that realization, it's a very important stage in his life. Because when a person has that clarity, his emunah is very, very strong. Before that, a person's emunah can be very shaky if he's unsure why things are going on. That's what emunah is. Emunah means I don't understand, but I believe it's all for the good. We don't understand everything. So I reached that point of understanding ve'emunah initani. In other words, that what I went through was all for my good. That your judgments are just. You righteously afflicted me. For whatever reason. We may not know specifically for what, but we know overall that yesh din ve'yesh dayan. There is a judge, there is judgment, and he knows what he's doing. So this helped him build himself up as an individual. His emunah is stronger. He therefore has no hesitations when he does something. If it's right, he'll do it, despite the pressures. Next verse, Ayin Vav 76, Yehina chazdecha lenachameni kimratecha le'avdecha. Let your kindness be my comfort, as you promised to your servant. Well, the verse says, there's another verse that says, Modeh ve'ozev yerucham. One who confesses and lets go of his sins, Hashem will have compassion for him. And that's what he says over here in a sense. Let it be that your kindness should comfort me. Since I did let go of what I've done wrong, I did confess. Kimratecha, as you've promised. You promised to your servant. What did you promise? Of course, that if you do teshuvah, that if you repent, that if you confess, I will atone. Hashem is not just going to bear a grudge like a human being. Hashem wants those who sinned to come back. As the other verse says by the prophet, Ki lo echpotz b'mot ha'rasha, ki im beshuvo, ki lo echpotz b'mot ha'met. I don't want the wicked to die. I want him to do teshuvah. So Hashem has said it repeatedly. Come back to me, and you will see that I will embrace you. So David HaMelech is, in a way, speaking about himself, but he's telling this to us too. That Hashem's kindness, it comes from Hashem's kindness. The word chesed means kindness even to those who don't deserve it. But let this kindness be lenachameni. That's what he's adding over here, a key word. That this kindness should be lenachameni, to comfort me. How will that kindness comfort him? So David HaMelech, in using this word, is saying, Hashem, do something that I will know for a fact that you are happy with me. That's why he says lenachameni, because when Hashem says, I forgive you, okay, I atone you for all the sins. But how will we know that? How do we know for a fact? There are many stories where tzaddikim, great righteous men, have told the sinner, this will be the sign when you know that heaven has accepted you, teshuvah. You have to do this, that, for a long time. And at some point when you notice this in your life, that is how you will know that your teshuvah is accepted. There was somebody that had illegitimate children. I'm giving you just a quick description of a story. And the rabbi told him basically your teshuvah is very difficult to achieve, but since you're really, really serious, let me give you the sign when those illegitimate children die. And one day, he got the news that they were killed in a terrible accident. So the one that gave him the news thought that he would be sad. But in some ways, he wasn't sad, even though he may have been partially sad. But he was happy that his atonement, which was real, was accepted. That's what David HaMelech wants here. He wants something that will comfort him, will reassure him that everything is okay. And that is from the kindness of Hashem. All right, let's go on. Yevo'uni, verse 77, Yevo'uni rachamecha v'chayeki toratecha sha'shuai. Very important verse. A lot of people are just going to go through it and not pay attention. It's very, very special. 77, let your mercies, that's rachamecha, come upon me that I may live. Okay? So he's not asking right now about being spared, protected, atonement. They're all important. Right now he's talking about the living. Why shouldn't he live? You may ask. So look at the words. Let your mercies come upon me that I may live, for your Torah is my delight. Toratcha sha'shuai. He wants to be preoccupied with Torah. So what exactly is he saying? There have been people that had an NDE, a near-death experience. Temporarily they died, they went upstairs. And Bashamayim, they said, I think that you should stay here. There's no reason for you to go back. You've done your job. And sometimes they would even say, if you go back, you may even make it worse for yourself. You may get yourself into trouble. And this person would either beg to go back because he has a family, okay? And sometimes those people that did go upstairs said, yes, I love it so much here, I want to stay. Those who wanted to stay, they sent back. Your time is not up yet, you still have a lot to accomplish. But I'm talking about the ones that did want to go back. So when they said that they want to go back, if they said it was because they have a family, they still have small children, they said in Shamayim, that is not a good enough reason to go back. A lot of people have children, so what? They tried several explanations of why they want to go back, and Shamayim said, nah, that's not a good enough reason. Until they made a promise, until they said something very, very special. I want to go back so I can accomplish this for Hashem, or I can do this mitzvah, or I can help people. Something really special, something spiritual. Oh, for that you want to go back? Yes. For that you can't go back. For that it's worth for you to live. Otherwise, for just to come down and exist and not do something productive, you don't need to. Just to babysit children. Even though, of course, we very much want to be around our children. But for someone to really live his life purposeful, it has to be more than just that. So that is what David HaMelech says. I'm asking for life. Hashem, not just to have fun and play golf. Ki Toratecha sha'ashuai. I take delight in your Torah. I want to learn Torah. I want to teach the Torah. That is why. I don't want to be here just for the fun of it. Or even not to be king. That doesn't interest me. Toratecha sha'ashuai. That's what he emphasizes here. For this reason, he knows Hashem may lengthen his life. And that's what he's asking for. He knows that his time is limited. He wants to be here as long as possible. So he chooses the words that he wants us to choose. If you ever face a situation like that, you're in danger, you're sick in the hospital, and the doctor says you have 2 months to live. Hashem, I want to live longer. You know why? Not because I want to be around my family. Ki Toratecha sha'ashuai. If you say something that is spiritual, something that really has purpose, and meaning, other than just around the family, things like that, there's a chance that Hashem will listen to that kind of a prayer. Otherwise, what is he telling us over here? We're talking about life here. He wants to live. For what? 78. Ayin Chet. Yevoshu zedim ki sheker yivetuni ani aseh befikudecha. Let the scoffers be ashamed. Zedim is not only scoffers, it's really the evildoers as well. But since we've been talking about evildoers that have been mocking him, making fun of what he's doing, and this can be Jews or non-Jews, makes no difference. Let them be ashamed, Yevoshu. Let them be ashamed, for they have maligned me with falsehood. But I will meditate upon your precepts. I will continue to do what is right, meditate. I will not pay attention to all the mockery. Let them be put to shame. How will they be put to shame? When they see that they did not discourage me, they did not succeed in getting me to let go of the Torah mitzvot. A lot of people, as we've said in the past, faced a lot of pressures. Shame is a lot of pressure. People do not want to be shamed. So here he's saying, let them who try to shame me be shamed when they see that what they tried to do did not work out for them. But here there's something else. Remember, he's not only talking about himself, he's talking about the future. Look at the word ivetuni. Kisheker ivetuni in the Hebrew. They have maligned me with falsehood. Very important point here, because he's talking about all those missionaries and the like who will attempt to mislead you with falsehood. Look, your own Torah says this. No, it doesn't. The problem is a lot of people don't know Hebrew very well. They have not learned the Torah. It's usually with these innocent individuals that these missionaries succeed in misleading, in trying to convince them of some falsehood. He says, I went through this too. They were telling me all kinds of things, their own interpretations of the Torah. Shekeri vetuni, but I went on and continued with my learning, observing your precepts, talking about them, and did not pay attention to what they said. That's what we sometimes need to do, to be careful, not to deal with people, especially if you don't know what to say to them. It's better not to talk to them. He was strong, but let them be shamed because they did not succeed in doing whatever it is that they wanted to do. All right, next verse is Ayin Tet 79. Yashuvu li yire'echa v'yodei edotecha. May those who fear you return to me, and those who know you, your testimonies. There was a time when David HaMelech had leprosy. The rabbis tell us, even the Sanhedrin, the major body of Sanhedrin, left him. Obviously this is not a good time for him in his past. And he's talking a little bit about that. Let them come back to me. I lost their friendship. I lost them being close to me. So that is why he's saying, Yashuv li yire'echa, those that fear you, not just anybody. Return to me, and those who know your testimonies, those who are observant. It could be also that a lot of people left him for political reasons too. All kinds of reasons. He doesn't describe why, but he went through all kinds of situations where even his closest people, friends, left him. So he's asking for the good ones, for those who fear Hashem, to come back to him. You may ask, what's the significance of this over here? Well, obviously you don't want to befriend just anybody. You want to be happy and be thankful if the bad guys let go of you. It's just that there are sometimes good people that keep their distance because of all kinds of false rumors that they've heard. So you don't want that to happen. So we need to pray for that too. Not everyone is intelligent enough or has strong enough emunah to realize what others are going through. And they may say, wherever there is smoke, there must be fire. All kinds of things like that nature. The Bible says it's not their fault completely. So please make it happen that they realize the truth. That whatever they have heard is wrong. Who did they hear it from? From the fake news, from the Zedim, from the mockers. So let the good guys at least come back to me. Pasuk Pei. This is the last pasuk with the letter Yud. This is a famous verse. May my heart be perfect in your statutes. Tamim is perfect, complete, so that I not be shamed. Interesting that he uses the word shame a lot. What is he afraid of? We find that shame can exist in this world and in the world to come, believe it or not. Somebody once asked me, what, people have feelings upstairs? Yes. Shame is something real that even exists upstairs. Upstairs you may not eat the food you eat down here. We don't have the Yetzirah, we don't have an evil inclination, but shame is something very painful upstairs, especially because the neshama feels ashamed of itself if it still has stains. If it still did not do complete teshuvah and it left this world incomplete, not having atoned for its sins, so it's ashamed of itself. So we don't want to be shamed not upstairs and not here, because the shame here is also painful. Even though we are strong and we can ignore it, it's still painful. So that's why he mentions this. But the first words, what is he saying with that? That my heart should be perfect in your statutes. Well, when we talk about the heart, we're talking about the emunah. We're talking about perfect. We're talking about tamim. Tamim tiyem Hashem Elokecha. For one's emunah to be perfect, complete. A lot of people who don't have it perfect emunah go consult with psychics and people that will read their astrological charts and all kinds of individuals who claim that they can tell them what to do in their life. The problem with that, even if it's not prohibited, there are some practices that may not be prohibited by the Torah. Some of them are prohibited, some of them are not. The problem with that is that if you put too much emphasis on that, it shows that you lack in emunah. Trust in Him. Leave it to Him. Pray to Him. You don't have to figure things out about the future too much. Whatever is meant to be will be. Don't worry about it. So he's asking help, as we said various times. It's definitely okay, acceptable, and a good thing to do. Ask Hashem for help. That our emunah shelot tipagem, that emunah should not in any way become lacking. All kinds of things happen in life where people's emunah becomes pagum. Let me give you an example. You have somebody who's fully observant, he's Ma'amin Hashem, he believes in God. He has a business for a long time, and all of a sudden there's a lot of competition across the street. If he doesn't have emunah and bitachon and trust in Hashem, he's going to be upset at the guy. But sir, nobody will take away a penny from what's coming to you. Don't you know that? Didn't you learn that? Didn't they teach you that? Where's your emunah? Where's your bitachon? So you can have people who are observant, Torah, mitzvot, they get up early every day, they go to pray, they study Torah, and the emunah, the bitachon, nifgema, it became defective as a result of money. Here it's their livelihood, of course, but it creates pressure, and it shouldn't. If the emunah would be strong, it wouldn't even bother them whatsoever. But David HaMelech says, yes, but I need help. I need help from Hashem that nothing should happen to hurt my emunah. So let that emunah in you, my heart in this case, be perfect in your mitzvot, in your statutes, so that I should not be ashamed. I should not do something that will shame me. Oh, you see? He has no emunah. Yes, that's what happens a lot of times. You know who this could happen to a lot? Not only with livelihood, people who are having a hard time getting married. They've tried everything in the world, and just nothing happens, and they're not picky. Hashem, where is my soulmate? You have emunah, you have bitachon. We have a clear tradition that it's Hashem directly and personally who brings people together. It doesn't happen by chance, it doesn't happen by accident. Yes, of course, there's shatchanim, matchmakers, but they're just messengers. You have to have strong emunah and bitachon. As I said many, many times, it's very possible that this is a test. This in itself, all it is, that it's delayed only because it's testing you. Are you going to still believe in Hashem? So therefore, what should you do? Accept it besimcha. I accept it happily. If this is what Hashem wants me to be like, single, at this stage in my life, when I'm already very, very old, I accept it. Now, this may sound very, very hard to some people, but that's the reality. It could very possibly be that in the zechut, in the merit of that emunah, in this nisayon, this challenge, he will be saved, or he will be granted whatever it is that he needs. We don't know. We just have to be careful not to say, I don't know what's going on. Hashem, what did I do wrong? Don't react in a way that shows that your emunah is weak. If anything, the stronger the emunah, the better the chances that at some point you're going to see a miracle. Somebody whose emunah is very, very weak, and he's been observant all these years, it's very shameful. It is indeed shameful. Because people will say, wow, how could you think like that? How could you talk like that? So David HaMelech says, please help me that I don't come to that kind of a situation. That I be strong in your chukecha and your statutes. Next verse, the letter Kaf, Kaletalet Shu'atecha Nafshi Lidvaracha Yechalti Pei Aleph, 81. These first two pesukim talk about David is longing. He wants something, he's looking forward to something. That's what the word kaleta. My soul longs for your salvation, I hope for your word. That's the first verse, 81. What is he longing for? He's talking about his nefesh, his spirit over here. Not about the physical body. Yes, and it usually is a spirit that has this sense of longing. It feels. It's not a physical need here, per se. So what is he longing for? He doesn't say exactly. All he says is L'tshuatecha, for your salvation. So some commentaries explain that he's talking about in the afterlife. He wants to be close to Hashem, and that is why he chooses here the word nefesh. Instead of talking about his physical body, the nefesh wants to be close to Hashem. I don't want there to be any partitions above. I want to be as close as possible. Yes, that could be one possibility. But he's also saying, Lidvarcha yihalti, I look forward to your word. Word meaning your promise, whatever that was, to him. That is already in this world. And this can be encompassing the Geulah, the redemption. He's talking after all to the Jewish people who will be in Galut, in the exile for a long time. So I long for the time that we will be once again close to each other. We will have a relationship with Hashem, we'll have a temple, and that will be during the time of the redemption. So when we say Ani Ma'amin, I believe in the coming of the Mashiach, hopefully we mean it. That even though he delays, I will still look forward to him, to his coming. So here the nefesh, the spirit is longing very, very much for some sort of salvation from the situation that they're in. Same thing with Pasuk Pei Bet, Kalu Einai, Limratecha Lemor Matai Tenachameni. 82, my eyes long for your promise, saying, when will you comfort me? My eyes. So the eyes want to see the rebuilding of the Bet HaMikdash. That's what he's saying over here. So this verse is pretty much purely talking about the end of days. 82. Kalu einai li'imratecha. Where was your imratecha, your word, your promise? Through the prophets who have promised that this will come, that Mashiach will arrive. But I'm asking, Matai tenachameni, when will it be that you will comfort me? Because so much has happened, so much pain, and so many terrible things have happened that I want to see the end of it. I want to see the nechama. When will the real nechama be? When a person dies and you go to lenachem oto, to comfort him, he's in mourning. Can you really comfort him? Nah. You can't really comfort him because all you're doing is, I share in your pain. I'm here to share in your pain. I feel sad for your loss. What is real comfort? You know what real comfort is? When we leave, what do we say to the mourners? Hamakom yenachem otchem, o tenuchamu min hashamayim. God will comfort you. Really? Not you? No, because He will bring you back the dead. That's real comfort. That's real consolation. Tchiyat hametim, when the dead will rise. When will this be? I want to see the real nechama. Otherwise, how will you comfort me for all the pain and suffering that I've experienced? Not only him, the entire Jewish nation. Kalu einai. I want to see it too, because we don't live forever. But we'd love to see it. Don't you want to be around when Mashiach comes? It's going to be great. It's going to be great to get up from the ground too, believe me. But it's better to be alive and see it. My eyes long for it. When will that comfort be? Next verse. Pei Gimel. This is just a brief description of the most painful times in the exile. The translation of Pasuk 83 is, though I became dried out like wineskin in smoke, became basically shriveled, became very, very dry, that I almost had no life left in me. Still, I did not forget your statutes. So this are words of reminding those people who are in exile, don't let go of the mitzvot just because you're going through this kind of a situation where you're completely dried out. In other words, where you don't have, or you don't think you have any hope of getting out of your situation. That is not an excuse to let go. I was in a similar situation and I did not let go. He's talking about himself. So you too, if you go through a similar situation, don't give up. Even if you're completely dried up. A lot of people have lost all their money. Imagine. All their money. Bankrupt completely. Real bankruptcy. Not fake. They don't have a penny left. They're in the street. They're like a not bekitor. Like this wineskin in smoke. Everything went up in smoke. Doesn't give you the excuse to let go. And I've heard it from people. You know who I mean. Oh, I have complaints to God. Yeah. How come I've been punished so much, went through so much? Look at this. I don't think Anybody can say that he went through what David HaMelech went through, so much. His own family against him, his best friends left him, enemies after enemies. Incredible. That's why he's a good example. I didn't let go. But now we face reality. The next verse is about the facts of life. Life is short. Kama yemei avdecha. How long will I live? How many are the days of your servant? When will you execute judgment upon my pursuers? Matai taseh berotfai mishpat. Saying, part of the nechama that I'm asking for is I want to see judgment, payday. Those guys, not that David HaMelech is interested in revenge. It's very important not to misunderstand him. He's interested in Kiddush Hashem. God's name should be sanctified. People should see that this is for real. You're not going to get away with it. Crime doesn't pay. That's all he wants. He wants what he's been teaching to be reinforced. Not for people to say, you see, if you're religious, you're not going to make it in life. Anybody who's religious is never going to be rich. Anybody who does mitzvot, you're only going to suffer. A lot of people think like that. So I want to see mishpat in rotf. I want to see judgment, berotfai, those that pursued me. But kama yemei avdecha. How many are the days? How long will I live? Will I be able to still see it? We don't always live to see judgment on the Reshaim. Life is short. But Hashem keeps count. He has a ledger upstairs. Everything is documented, nothing is forgotten. But the David HaMelech wants to see it anyway. So he's asking, let me see it. And that will bring me a little bit of respite, a little bit of happiness, a little bit of consolation that what I did was the right thing. And of course, anybody that knew me will see that I was right. The wicked have dug pits for me in violation of your Torah. We talk about people that knew him, people that should have helped him according to the Torah. They were in violation of the Torah. They dug pits for me. They wanted me to fall. And when we say to fall, we don't only mean physically stumble and fall, we also mean spiritually. They wanted me to make mistakes. They wanted me to fall. So that will bring embarrassment to me. Look what they did to me. They dug pits instead of helping me. They were in clear violation of the Torah. They had no justification. Why is he telling this to us? Clear violation of the Torah. Because there are people who know the Torah, know it very well, very knowledgeable, and will still violate it. Because they say, this guy is a wicked man. It's a mitzvah to hurt him. Really? Where does it say that in Torah it's a mitzvah to hurt someone? I mean, show me. It's always politics. It's always baseless hatred, things of that, jealousy. But you think that they're talking with some sort of Torah foundation to back them up. No way in the world. He says, this is a clear violation of the Torah, what they did. Don't think that they knew what they were talking about, even though we're talking about great people, knowledgeable people. We're after David HaMelech. Great and knowledgeable. It was a violation of the Torah. Pei Vav, 86. Kol mitzvotecha emunah sheker edafuni ozreni. All your commandments teach truth. Yet they pursue me with lies, therefore help me. Anybody want to guess? This is also a very interesting pasuk, similar to what we said before. Mitzvotecha emunah. I may not understand all the mitzvot, but I know that this is the truth. Okay? Therefore, anybody that tries to tell me otherwise, I know he's lying. The Torah warns us that there will be false prophets. And the rabbis explain that therefore, based on that statement of the Torah, anybody that tells you something that contradicts an established tenet of the Torah is a liar. But he can walk on water. So what? Magic is something real. We believe in witchcraft. It's forbidden for us, but it exists. There are kochot hatumah. That in itself will not prove the emet of something, the truth of it. Truth can only be proven if it's min hashamayim. Oh, God spoke to me last night in a dream. Why just to you, not to me? When he spoke to us as a nation. Nobody can say he spoke to me alone. Go prove it. How do we know he spoke to you? We all heard it. It's been documented, generation after generation. It's not just a tradition. It wasn't just a dream, it was a real thing that happened. So therefore, be careful. Whenever you hear things that contradict your Torah, just remember, your mitzvot are emunah. They are the truth. Therefore, something else that comes and tries to contradict it, it's asur, it's basul, it's invalid, it's sheker. If it doesn't contradict it, then it could be acceptable. Maybe, okay. Comes along somebody and tells you, God told me that you should help this guy. Fine. To help is always good. It doesn't contradict the Torah. You have nothing to lose except your money. It all depends, what are you being asked, but it's not a contradiction. We have conditions that need to be met for a prophet to prove that he's a real prophet. If he doesn't meet those conditions, then he's false. And there were a lot of false prophets, and the Torah predicts it. The Torah therefore tells us, be careful. It warns us. They will mislead you. How will they mislead you? If they tell you, they'll give it away. They'll tell you to do something against the Torah. That's how you know right away to let go of them, not to listen to them. All right, next pasuk. Kim'at kiluni ba'aretz v'ani lo azavti pikudecha, pei zayin. They nearly consumed me upon the earth, but I did not forsake your precepts. This is what we call anti-Semitism. They almost destroyed me. They almost consumed me. Yeah, for what reason? Not necessarily because I did something wrong, he says. V'ani lo azavti pikudecha. I did not let go of your commandments, of your statutes. So it's not like I should really get the blame. So what is it then? Anti-Semitism. Esav sonet Yaakov. Rabbi tells us Esav hates Yaakov because what Yaakov represents, Esav doesn't want to accept. So there's a lot of anger, there's a lot of hatred, only because of what we represent. Otherwise, he says, what is this from? Obviously, Hashem sends messengers to pursue us for all reasons that maybe we deserve it. A wake-up call. But he's talking about those situations where there's no real wake-up call. I didn't do anything wrong. He said that I know. What is it? It's anti-Semitism, sinat, or some other kind of hatred, not based on something real. Kibat kiluni ba'aretz. They almost consumed me completely. This will happen again and again. It will repeat itself. This is the last pasuk of the letter Kaf. As befits your kindness, grant me life, he says, and I will keep the testimony of your mouth. Again, he's talking about life, to remain alive. And this is not for pleasures. Only for what purpose? Veshmira edut picha. So that I can keep the testimony of your mouth. Similar to what we said before. I'm being pursued by all these enemies, and I want to stay alive. Russian Jewry suffered a lot because of these kind of situations where they were just living in that country and they wanted to be equal citizens, but they never got jobs based on what they deserve, on their skills. They were discriminated against. That was good if it was only discrimination, but sometimes they were sent to Siberia or other harsh punishments. For what reason? Just for keeping the Torah. But David HaMelech is saying, I'm asking for your kindness to keep me alive. For what purpose? So I can observe your mitzvot. Observing your mitzvot should not be a crime, right? Therefore, give me life so that I can continue to do so. All right, verse Lamed, or I should say letter Lamed, verse Peitet 89. Le'olam Adonai devarecha nitzav b'shamayim. This is a famous verse. Forever Hashem, your word stands firm in the heavens. Well, Hashem made a statement. When he created the world, he made actually various statements. And those statements are still there. In other words, their effect, the world continues to exist. Hashem renews it all the time. His statement is permanent. It's not like some scientists want to say the sun one day will disappear, will stop burning. No. Hashem's word is firm. It it will stay, it will stick. Some say, however, that this verse can also be talking about Hashem's voice being heard in Matan Torah when he gave the Torah, that heavenly voice can still be heard by those who are sensitive. And it wakes them up. As the rabbis tell us, there's a daily heavenly voice, Bat Kol, coming out and reminding people of the importance of learning Torah. Not everybody pays attention to it. But sometimes the soul is awakened. The rabbis explain how is the soul all of a sudden awakened? Sometimes by this heavenly voice that is calling out to every Jew, awaken. Go and learn this Torah that you haven't been learning for a long time. Don't put that Torah to shame. So it could be that this verse insinuates that too, that Hashem's word coming out from Sinai back then is still around. It can still be heard for those who are willing to hear it. Ledor vador emunatecha konanta eretz vata'amod. Verse 90. Your faithfulness persists for all generations. You establish the earth and it stands. Well, the world continues to exist. The land is the same as it was 2,000 years ago. The earth is still here. What changes? People. People come and people go. As the verse elsewhere says, Dor olech v'dor ba ve'aretz leolam omedet. A generation comes, a generation leaves, and the land still remains the same. So certain things don't change. So that's more or less what he's saying. Ledor vador emunatecha. Your word, what you said, creation, stands firm. In this case, your faithfulness. Your faithfulness persists for all the generations. That will be around forever. Your emunah, your promises, whatever you said, will happen. That will always be. What is not always there is people. So that's why he says, in the same way that konanta eretz v'tamod, that the land stays the same thing with your emunah, your faithfulness, which includes all the prophecies that were made. They will come true, as they had in the past. Next verse. למשפטיך עמדו היום, כי הכל עבדיך. Stand ready today to execute your judgments, for all are your servants. He's talking about all the galaxies and the stars, all the angels. These are all Hashem's servants. They stand ready. Stand ready to execute your judgments. They carry out the judgments of Hashem. For all are your servants. Hashem has many messengers. There's an incredible story of how a rabbi once observed a scorpion, a dangerous scorpion, piggyback on a frog over a river. So it went across the river, piggyback on a frog. It came to land and it went and it stung somebody to death. And he says, wow, look at the messenger here. Look who was the messenger here. A frog. For this scorpion to go across the water to get that individual. So that's what he's saying. Hashem has all kinds of messengers to carry out his judgments. Tzadik bet, lulei toratecha shashuai azavati be'oni. Very important verse. Had your Torah not been my delight, I would have perished in my affliction. Because he had Torah, he had emunah, he was able to resort to that and find solace in his learning, in his understanding a little bit. Without that, he says, I would have perished in my affliction. There's some times that people just lose it. They can't take all that pain, all that persecution, all that struggle that they're having day after day. He had Torah. And it's a known thing. Psychologists all know this. They have seen this. People who have emunah, have faith, do better. I have a whole lecture about this, how emunah can help people in all kinds of situations, be stronger. And that's what he's saying. As a result of me having the Torah near to me, I was able to survive. It was my delight. It really saved me. Le'olam lo eshkach pikudecha kivam chiyitani tzadik gimel. Never will I forget your precepts, for through them you have sustained me. Just like we don't forget to eat, we realize that food is something that we need to survive. He says, I realize the importance of the mitzvot, that without them I cannot survive either. I will never forget them. Kivam chiyitani. I realized more than ever that it's through them that you sustained me. It's not like people say, oh, if you work on Shabbat, you'll not have a job because they'll fire you Monday, as they did many times when Shabbat was not a free day. There was no long weekend. If you keep the mitzvot, you're not going to lose out because of that. If you give charity, you're not going to become poor unless you give all your money away. By keeping the mitzvot, you will not die, unless there's a decree from Shamayim, like the Holocaust. Don't ever think like that. On the contrary, they sustained me. It was through them that I realized that they're keeping me alive. Tzadik Dalet 94, Lecha ani hoshieni ki fikudecha darashti. I'm yours. Lecha ani. Therefore help me, save me, for I have sought your precepts. I'm yours? Yes. There's a time that sometimes we need to choose. Who do you belong to? To which camp? To the camp of God or to the camp of some other idol? Or to the camp of the wicked, the camp of the sinners? We sometimes make choices. Lecha ani. I belong to you, Hashem Yoshi, therefore help me. There should be no doubts about it. How can I prove it? Kifikudecha darashti. I'm always looking, I'm always wanting, seeking your precepts. That is indicator. When one actually seeks, he shows, he demonstrates that this is what he wants all the time, and he asks Hashem for help. That really demonstrates on whose camp he is. Otherwise, people sometimes are echad balev echad bapeh. They're two-faced. They say things, but in their heart they don't really want it. Hashem, I always showed you, demonstrated to you that this is what I want. So I was sincere, that I'm on your side, in your camp. The wicked hope to destroy me, but I meditate upon your testimonies. This is talking about all those individuals who try to destroy the Jewish identity, and they could be Jews too. That we should not be a unique nation. We should not be special in any way. Assimilate. Get over with the problems. Be like everyone else. That's what they wanted to do for me. That's what they wanted to do to me. The wicked wanted to destroy me, to destroy my identity. But I meditate upon your testimonies. I realize when I study your Torah that this is what I need to do. This is the way I'm reminded that I should be proud of my heritage, not ashamed of it. People who don't learn are at a big disadvantage. They don't realize how special this heritage is. There's a lot of people there that want to destroy it. Meditate on them so that you remind yourself from time to time. That's the last verse. To every goal I have seen a limit, but your commandment is immensely broad. Everything has a limit. You eat, you're tired of eating. You don't want to eat anymore. Anything that's physical has a limit, even though some people don't have a limit when it comes to money. But in reality, there is a limit. To what there's no limit? To spirituality, spiritual growth, mitzvot, Torah, learning. Because even if you already know the Torah, every single time you will learn it, you will always find new things. Amen.